To start with, so we have worked on datetime module, where we have seen how to work with datetime module and what are the various attributes it has. It has both like the date objects and time objects. So we can work with creating the time zone also. First and foremost, it has a datetime object together. From that, if you want to get the date time, you can get as it is. So if you want a date object out of it, you can say dot date. If you want time object out of it, so you can do dot no time. So like that, we can extract anything from it. Learning Python is one set. Learning modules are another thing. In any language, learning a language grammar is different. So, but like learning modules is different. So it a bit of learning. So we need to go through. And at the same time, so if we have individual date and time objects, we can even create a datetime object also. So vice versa is possible. In the same lines, we can have a time delta. We can specify the delta time change, and we can use that. And also if you have like, so he similarly like days, we can say months, minutes, hours. So let's say sometimes you want to create a date, so which is like previous date or 2 days before that. So or like so some dates like afterwards, so 10 days afterwards. So like that, if you have any such offsets, you just create the time delta and you either use a plus or minus. So using that, we can do any sort of operations to get the corresponding date. If I need to get a -1 date, see, I got the yesterday's date. So like that. Similarly, you can create your own custom dates by giving the values, either like positional arguments or using keyword arguments. Either way you can give. Even for the time also, you can specify the time you want, either in keyword arguments or so like default positional arguments or keyword arguments. And similarly, you can create a date time object. Earlier, you have created only time object or only date object. Similarly, you can create a date time object, means it involves date and time also. But for the date and time, if you just give the dates and didn't give the time information, the time will be set as 0 by default. But in case like you are giving the time also, like hours and minutes, then it will take that. So, and especially if you give like keyword arguments, then there is no problem. It is more clear, right? And similarly, sometimes you will have use cases where you want to replace an existing thing. Say you are processing a CSV file and you got some records, but unfortunately the records has a different date. Or like, so sometimes you want to replace that. Only replace a year or a month or like both. So like that, how many things you want to replace? You can just place that. You can take the data object, datetime object, you can replace for everything. So the replace works not only with the datetime object, but only data object or only time objects also. So correspondingly, we can replace anything that we need. Similarly, I told there is something called as epoch time. Epoch time means the 1st of January 1970. So at that time, everywhere it is called as an epoch time. So if I give 0, at 0, what would be the time? Means the same thing. So UTC from timestamp. So why they have created this? The point I will tell. It's not because like everyone want to create something like a new era. It's because when we are communicating, if I tell, hey, what is the time? Someone says like 10:30. Someone tells like, so 10:30. So if you ask like, what is the year and month? Someone says like year first, then date and so and so. So in some places they say in the reverse order, or they say like, so Jan 1st, so and so. So like the different dates and different years will come, right? The formats will be different for each people. But if everyone need to agree on a single thing, so what is the best format? So I think numbering is the best format, right? So that's why they have gone for this kind of timestamp based ecosystem. So not only Python, every language you see, the same thing works. Epoch time is created for that purpose. Means from January 1st, 1970 onwards, how many seconds were passed? That is the timestamp. If I give any number, so for that number exactly there will be only 1 year and 1 date only. So that's very easy, right? So for especially when we are working with missions for communicating, it's the best thing. So that's why mostly this timestamp will be used. And especially if I say UTC from timestamp, so the timestamp at the 0th position in UTC time zone. UTC means so UK time zone. So UK is not exactly UTC every time. During daylight saving times, it will change daylight saving. But UT is something like 0 every time. So that's a point. And similarly, like you can get the different dates, different seconds, total seconds. And similarly, I told, right? If you give a custom, so seconds and some milliseconds also here for this particular thing, what is the date? So 22, so I mean 2022, so 5th month, so 25, some date you got it. If I increase this value, obviously things will be much more better. Maybe like if I add something like, instead of something, if I give a big number, you see now what happened? Oh, 24,000 I have gone. So if I remove like, a couple of things here, so a small number, you see it became 1974. And similarly, I got like one more number, and you see here, 2012. So which are a timestamp for that it will come. Similarly, if you give some other number, you get something else. And similarly, if you want to know the current time of that particular location, wherever your server is located or your machine is located, that local time zone it will give. Sir, how can it know that it is in a particular area? Because there is something called as time database. The moment you install Python, it will get these kind of ecosystems involved. So it will know about based upon your machine, like which time zone it is part of and other information. Based upon that only, it will do the calculations. Sometimes you may ask me, so if assume that a system is like so isolated and alone, and you don't know at what date it generally daylight savings times came and all these things. All these things will be coming from the time database, which will be in the backend. So the moment you install Python, all these things will come in the backend and store. If I say what is the current time, so 2023, so March 7th, so 5:37. At the same time, UTC is also same. Because in my case, so both time zones are same. But if for you, things will be changing. So in my case, both are same. And similarly, we can access them. Next big thing is about this one. So STRF. There are two things called as STRF, and next you will see about STRP. These are two types of things. If you go to this website, strf.org, it will give a, so for everything, one specific way. Hope you remember, like, earlier when we used to do like old style string formatting, you remember, if I do percentile D, and if I do percentile, and if I pass like some number called as 123, then what will happen? The number will come, right? It's just a format. And before and after that, I can write anything of my intention. If I write number, colon, so and so, means everything will come as it is. Wherever your percentiles are there, only in that place, so it will get replacement done. In the same fashion, so even if you have a datetime object, if you want to convert to a string, we should specify strf, string formatting. So here, if I say percentile y, capital Y, it is saying like unsupported type percentile. I think somewhere it has an extra percentile. So what's happening? Oh yeah, I have an extra percentile here. 1 second. Yeah. See now what happened? I added an extra percentile unnecessarily. That's why it gone. STRF of, if I do like percentile capital Y, as I gave capital Y, I got like this one. And similarly, see here, percentile M should be there. That it became like just an M. So if I do like that, exactly you see, right? So why these slashes and spaces are coming? Because you wrote it here. So maybe like, so is the date I'm saying. See what will happen? Whatever you have your string, it will come as it is. Wherever these percentiles are there, only those places the values will change. Same like ordinary string formatting. And here you need, so if you go to this site, you will understand a lot of things. Percentile capital Y means 4-digit year. So small y means 2-digit year. So percentile M means, small m means, so date as a number. So percentile capital M is also date as a number only. If I say capital B or small b, So for the month, it will say like word, like a month, like a word and others. Similarly, hours, also two things. Hours are, so if I give like, 12 hours format or 24 hours format, percentile I and percentile H. Percentile P means AM or PM. You're getting PM. Now it is PM, right? Similarly, it is asking time zone. Percentile Z means time zone. But in fact, I'm not getting time zone. That is another big thing I will tell you shortly. So you see here, this time, instead of just a format, I wrote something. Today is percentile D so and so, so and so. See, I gave a white space here a comma, here a space, all these things, right? Whatever I give, exactly I'm getting, right? Comma, spaces, columns. Only the values, wherever the percentiles are there, it is getting replaced. So this is what, how do you convert from your datetime object to the string? So whenever you want to dump to a CSV file or something, so the contents, so this is how you dump from Python object to Python datetime object to so string. Whereas the reverse, if I say, if I have a datetime, let's say from a, this is a good example, whenever you are parsing a CSV file. In a CSV file, assume there were some dates in a particular format. So you want to parse them and convert to Python so that you want to do processing. Say you have a file, so where you got all the dates of all the records that you got. You want the records only which are like, so more than 6 months back. Only those you want. Then what happens? First, you need to understand the record, understand what is the time, and check whether it is later than greater than 6 months. Then you need to do, right? So like that. First of all, you see here, if I have a date, I'm making it simple. Assume the same thing which are highlighted will come from a CSV file, one record. You see, it is having a year first, right? 4-digit year. So that's the reason here also I give 4-digit year, percentile capital Y. Then there is a hyphen. I created a hyphen. So then there is a 01, means like a date, sorry, month. So percentile M. See, however this object is there, I need to give this formatting also exactly like that. If I give only, then it will understand. So then it will understand, and it is called as strp time. String representation, earlier is string formatting. So for whatever the datetime string you have, we need to give the formatting in exactly, then it will recognize it as a thing. So if I give like something else, so we should give correspondingly. You see strp time of 8th April 1945 give. I have only 3 values, percentile B, percentile capital B, so percentile Y. And in the same lines, if I create one more thing, like say here, if I create like say, instead of April, say APR I have. APR means small b I give. You see now, after giving a small b, I got the answer. So whichever you have, if you have only 3, give the percentile. Sir, what if I give something else? Then it will throw in error. So we should be careful about that. Sometimes like date and month, like 0, 1, like that, it will appear. So if you interchange the positions, it is a logical error. So you should be carrying out. In the same fashion, coming back to the delta changes. Hope you remember I told, right? We can do any amount of change, plus or minus. Say here in this case, to the current local time, I want to add 23 days and 34 minutes. So did you see now how you got? So 23 dates and 24 months. So you see now what will happen? 2023 is current date. So month is the same. So today is 7th. After 23 days means 30th. So 30th. So same 5-1 it here. So that's why 30 minutes you got it. In the same lines, you got the other one. So local time and the delta time. So from local time, you want to add like 20 days only. And month, so minutes, hours, all these things you can add like this. Add or delete, it's up to us. And similarly, you can see the difference also, how many days and others. And similarly, there is one more module called as PyTZ. Most of the time we don't use it, but it will be inherently used in many of the modules like Django or something, which are like frameworks, which you'll learn shortly. So if you want to do any command line thing from your Jupyter notebook, you can write an exclamation. Hope you know this exclamation mark. So above the number 1 symbol, you have an exclamation mark, right? After that, write any command line execution. If you want to execute in Jupyter Notebook, this is how you do. So pip install -u, so pytest. That means pip install. Pip is a module with which you install any package. It's like a package manager. -U means if it is not installed, then install. If it is already installed, then update. So -user is an optional thing. So whenever you're doing a direct installation, we can add it, such that if you have any permission issues, it can help me. You see now it is going and installing in the backend. So, and you will see the output also here. Not only this, in Jupyter Notebook, if you want to execute any command line tool, this is how you do. You see what it's saying? Hey, collecting the cache. It is already there in the cache for me. So it is trying to install. So it is trying to update the things. So as it has a latest one, so it has taken. Means it found like 2024, 22, 7 is there. So that's why it uninstalled this and installed the 22, 22, 7. So it's saying like a new release of pip also came. Do you want to install that? If you want to install, you can go ahead. What is saying, hey, this is how you need to do the entire command. So if I want to execute that command also, I can give a plus code and I can do it. So pip install --, so upgrade. So you can say __ upgrade or just you. I told right in arg parse, same like that. You can do either of way and do it. If I do like __ user, then it will take it. So if I want to upgrade the pip version also, you can do. So pip has the latest version, it is saying from 22 so and so, it can upgrade that. So that is how any Python command or any command line tool execute. So it's not a Python thing. It's like any command you can execute. So in the same fashion, coming back to this pytz, so pytz. Coming to the case of like this pytz, what is the use cases you can say? So till now you have like datetime.datetime.utc now. Datetime.utc now means you got some datetime, right? So for this, so if I say like, what is the time zone? If I say, hey, what is the time zone information? It said none because it don't have anything. But if I take a time zone called as ptz dot time zone of UTC, so that UTC time I'm localizing. What do you mean by localizing? Localizing means converting in accordance. So till now I have one time of a particular time zone, and I'm converting that time zone to UTC. So whenever you have your own native time that you are passing to this one, then it will convert to that time zone. Means at that time, what is the corresponding time in UTC, it will convert. So at this moment, you are trying to localize. Localize means add just that UTC time zone to it. See, whatever you have it here, here also you got it. Now you got one time zone with some UTC time zone, date time, everything is there. Now after this, I created one more thing called as, so Paris and Europe. So Europe, Paris time zone. It is CEST, right? Central European thing, I think the same thing, Paris time zone. Now you have your main data time that you are trying to localize to Paris time zone. When you're trying to change to Paris time zone, it is saying like, so 16 means 4 o'clock, 4:20, right? In the evening. So they are a bit early. So if I'm trying to localize to, American New York time zone, you see now what things happens? It's staying to 10:20 right now, means Eastern time zone. Similarly, if I want to convert to, so Los Angeles. Los Angeles means, so PST. So PST means the 7 in the morning, 7:20. So like that, how many such time zones are there, sir? Means, so there is pytz dot all time zones. If you check, so you can see the list of all the time zones that it has processed. So means like for every 4, I want to give a, so just an empty print so that you can see that. So in Africa, so Americans, so Asia, so all these things are time zones are there. I placed a very detailed note. You can see all the time zones which are supported. So till now we know only the time zones, but is country-wise, state-wise, you can ask, region-wise. Similarly, if you see, so Asia, Kolkata. So it is one of the time zone. If you try to localize, now exactly for this time, what is the time there? So 8:50. So that's what you got it. Similarly, if you see the other one, so you can see the list of all the time zones it possessed, common time zones. So most common time zones, and if you want to localize and convert to any time zones, this is how you do. Or when you're creating a date time also, at that time itself, you want to give a time zone. So you see now it will work. So when you're creating a datetime.now itself, you're saying tz is equal to pytz so and so. Datetime.now will not take anything. It will just think like what are its local time zone and gives it. But it don't have a time zone on its own. So that's why if you pass, it will work. So like this also you can create, or like this also you can create and localize. Both the ways the results will be the same. Okay. So this is all about it. And going further, there is one more thing called as recently in Python 3.9 they introduced so zone information. So these are like extra things where you can do more things about it. I told you, right, there is something called as IANA time zone database. IANA time zone database. So what is saying? So there is no no time zone found with key Amazon America / Los Angeles. So these things sometimes these are changing. So if I say so US time zone, right? Sometimes they were changing these modules, and this IANA database is there, right? This is what is the main thing. So maybe there were some changes recently in 3.11, which is why it is failing. Now, what is the error it is saying? It cannot recognize this time zone called as so US/Eastern. So we should see if there are any changes in that particular module and address it. But in general, it also works in the same way. When you give any value, so it will work. So ignoring that, so there are many things like this. Similarly, there are some use cases like if you see, so get week of the day. This is one of the real use case. So if you are given any day, you just want to know what is the date of the week. Given date, if you are given a date, and if you are given some format, we should tell what is the week of the day. So for that, I wrote a small function. You see here, if you give 23 03 1978, and I told what is its format also, because if you are given a string, it need to recognize like a thing means we need to understand, right? So why can't we understand directly means no, because sometimes we will be confused between the date and month, right? If both are like 0101 like that. So that's the reason we are asking both the date and also the format. Based upon that, we can create a strp time, right? We can create a data object. From the data object, if I say, so from date time, there is another thing called as date. So from date time, there is something called as date. Using that, if we can ask date.weekday of this one, it will give what is the week of the day. So I know it is too much of information overload, but this is how it works in real time. So the more the modules. Also, there is one more module called as calendar. Especially whenever you're working with date and date time related things, it is very handy to help you. So anytime when you have a Jupyter notebook, and if you want to clear all the outputs, this is how you do. And if you want to run all, so this is how you do. We need to select the kernel, then it will run all the commands in one shot. But in middle, if there is any of the code which was broken, it cannot run completely. So you see now, calendar is a module. It has a lot of calendar related date operations. If I say here, typically I told, right, documentation, mainly calendar related things. If you want to display the calendar of a month or an year, so or like entire year, or you want to localize in a particular way, or if you want to represent the calendar in a specific way, for all these things we can use it. So first and foremost, I told the epoch time, 1970. So January 1st, I told all the things, right? So that epoch time, so I'm fine. So and it is taking for Monday as 0. It will by default it takes Monday as the starting day of the week. in different countries, the starting date of the week is different, right? In India, starting is like Sunday. In some other countries, it is Friday. So like that, it will have. Based upon that, also we can change. But by default, it will think like that. And also it thinks that, can you understand what is this? It is the number of days in a month. So if you see the number of days in a month, ignoring the first month, this is a January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, December. So ignoring the first one, so all were like dates of the months. So why they can help us, I will show you shortly. If I say week header, so if I say week header of 2, for every week only 2 digits will come. Similarly, if I say week header of 0 means nothing, 1 means like, so like this, 2 digits means 2 digits, 3 digits, 4 digits. So, 5 digits. So like that, if you give 10 digits also, was that 10? No. So just with some spaces, it will show that that's it. Till 3 digits only it will show. Similarly, the example that you have done earlier, the same thing I'm doing here. If you can notice here, what I'm trying to say, you can see that it is working on, there is a get week of the day. So you are given a input. It is asking us for an input. And once you give the input, it will try to extract. Did you see? It's a very interesting operation. If you give some string in this month, date, year format. So how can I give, if I say month means, if I say like, 08 space, if I say date, say I give 13. If I say like 2023, I give these things, right? 3 things are there. How should it understand what is month, what is date, and what is year? Once you gave, it is splitting by white space. You get 3 values, and you are converting them to integer. Did you see? Map is a very built-in function which can do that. So after you getting 3 integers, we are assigning to 3 variables. So, and this is how you get month, date, and year. From that, these are the specific fixed weekdays, right? Either we can hard code here and do it, or else we have in the calendar also we can get it. So from that calendar.weekday of, if I give this ones, year, month, and date, if I do to calendar.weekday, it will give the week number. If I get the week number out of it, I get it. So that's how I do it. If I say I gave it enter, if I give an enter, you can see I got the answer. So see here, I got Sunday. Similarly, one more example. It is still expecting me to give that answer. Say if I give like, 12th month, so 12th date, so 2012. You see now, 12th month, 12th day, 2020. So you got Wednesday. Similarly, so if I give any specific dates, so calendar.month of, you see. So for the same thing, if I give a print, did you now understand what is the beauty of calendar module? You can get the calendar of a particular date. So you give a year and a month, you get the entire calendar. If I give like 2020 and so, I got the things. What if I give like, so 2023, 23, say what is this, 3rd month, if I give, did you see 3rd month I got it? So this is how a calendar works, right? If you go for any of the calendar, yes, please.
Yeah. Can you repeat one more time the example that you give for the extraction of the string, the above?
Which one?
Yeah, this one. Given input is equal to input. Can you just repeat one more time? Get week of day. Yes, this one.
Yes. We are giving a string and it is processing it. If you see now, so what is that we are doing? We are giving a string which is like 12. Say month is like, so 12. Date is like, 03. And the year is like, so 2023 something. If I give 3 things, so it will go here, input string. So then what did the split does? Split will divide into 3 parts, right?
Yes.
So split, if I do split by white space, if I do, you can notice that it is given into 3 parts, right?
Yes.
So you have, okay, I gave like too much space. Fine, leave it. You see now, you got 3 spaces. So what I'm trying to say, these 3 strings are there. If I pass to map built-in function, what will happen? If I have three things, what will map built-in function do? So map of, so int is a built-in function and I'm passing. So don't you know that map is a function which will take each of the input and pass to this function?
Yes.
It is like, so doing like int of 12, so int of 03, int of so and so specifically. So if I do like, for us to understand, if I'm doing conversion and printing like this, did you know, understood that the list is coming now with three integers instead of
Yes.
strings? So that is what exactly it is happening here. As we are getting three values, they are getting using those three values, and we are doing it. And this is a built-in functionality which, if you give any date, month, and year, so it will give the week number. It will not give the week name. So as we know the names, we can use it to get it. That's it.
Okay.
Okay. Similarly, so if you give these things, it will give the date and time. So as per your need. Next. So this is another example. So where you want to check like uh, getting the number of days in a month. If you want to check like that, this is how. If I say month range, if I say in that particular month, so it will give how many weeks are there and what is the month duration. So August means 31 days, right? So there were like 4 weeks. So what is this 5 weeks and 4 weeks means? Very simple. Sometimes in a week, did you see in this particular case here, it is starting in 1 week, and so it is ending in another week. Means, so this is the first week, right? Second week, third week, fourth week, fifth week, sixth week, like that, right? So that's why in this case, it is saying 6 weeks are there in this month and totally 31 days are there. Did you all understand what I'm trying to say? It's not that 6 full weeks. It is a part of like 6 of the weeks. That's what this month range and will tell you. Sometimes during calculations, we need to know this. So, and say like, so I used one of the time where I want to create an automation where like the patch should happen. There are like Windows and Linux machines. For Linux, for every 30 days, it needs to do patch. For Windows, for Linux, every 3 months means, so 180 days it should happen. Exactly on that day it should happen. So I need to create that kind of calendar for this patch schedules. So I made use of calendar module to do that. Similarly, so if you want to display the calendar, so for the entire year, if you want to display, this is how you can do. You give like, so year and so it will give. So it will give the entire year's thing. And if I say like first weekday, first, so all these small operations are there. If you give like anything, it will give. And similarly, not only the ordinary calendars, we can also give the text calendars. Text calendar means like you will make some kind of formatting, and these are like, so some basic things you can just walk through. But like if you want to do customizations, that's where it is more useful. Generally, so starting of the day, I told Monday is the starting day, right? In the shopping, I told if you mark like, starting day is equal to, so calendar.sunday. Now, did you see August 1st is 1947 is every time Friday only. But the way it is displaying, it will displaying Sundays first, right? Similarly, if you go for Arabic calendars, starting with a Friday, right? So if you define like that and ask, did you see? See, August 1st, so 1947 is Friday only every time. But the way it is presenting is different, right? Did you see Fridays came next Saturday, next Sunday, Monday, so and so? Here, the order was changed, right? That's the only difference. That's it. Similarly, if you want to localize, means if you want to convert to any other language, local languages, this is how you have. So if you want to see, this is a link where you can see the Windows related local library. So similarly, Windows and Linux, the slice underscore and hyphen will be changed. That's it. These are all the different, locals. Local means what? The different languages, I would say. So if I convert like a different locals, EN English means US English means this is how. So similarly, like, there are different formats. Uganda, Vietnamese. I wrote many things. You can convert your own. So I wrote something like Saheli. So some are like not even supported by this VS Code. That's why we can't see that. But you can try different locales to see. So, and you can check like whether something is leap year or not. So like that, there are the option. So if you want like continuously iterate the months in a particular year or so and so, there is a module. Continuously we go on getting the values. So iterate weekdays. Totally weekdays are 0 through 6, right? Iterate, months in a particular thing. Means like in a year, first month, you want to get all the dates. So instead of you generating, you just do like this. Did you see you get everything like this? If I say like, say 2023, if I give first month. You see now? So in this particular month, what are dates are coming? Sir, did you see that you are getting 2022 December 26 also? You may ask me, sir, why we are getting this? Means just don't imagine something big. Just imagine like a calendar. In a calendar, so I told you, right? So previous months and others also will come. If you see like, month range of it, you will understand. Means if I say like, calendar dot month range, calendar dot month range of, if I give 23, and if I give the month, so it will display like 6 weeks are there, right? And 31 I told. And similarly, if I say a month, you can notice, right? You can see right here. So why it is doing like this means there were 2 dates here which are prepending to this. In this particular calendar, this Friday and Saturday were like in the previous year. That's the reason you got these 2 separately. Else everything, all the other things are like there, right? So like that you will get the previous week and others. So if you do like same 2023, fine. So similarly, like iterate months of different things, calendars you will get. These are like different options. Just walk through it. So there were like different features which I added here. So apart from this date and calendar that you have seen, there are other things like pendulum is there. So arrow module is there. Like the different modules are there. So the next big thing which I want to show is about the random numbers. So every language have this concept called as random numbers. And this random number is not a true random number. It is called as a pseudo random number. The reason it is called a pseudo random because we can predict the next occurrence. What do you mean by predicting next occurrence, sir? Means it's very simple. So this is called as there is a more algorithm called as Mersenne twister algorithm. So you'll get a lot of interview questions also. Not only in Python, even Java also using the same thing. Even Go language is also using the same thing. Mersenne twister is an algorithm for creating pseudo random numbers. We are not bothered about what is this algorithm and so and so, but you need to understand what is the pseudo randomness. Random means what? We cannot predict, right? You get some values which we cannot predict. That is what is a random means. But like pseudo random means we can predict also. So what is that we can predict? So what is that we cannot predict? That's what the clarity you need to understand, right? So this time I want to show in an IPython notebook. So here also I have IPython also I want to show. Okay. If I say like import random. So random is a module. If I say like, so dir of random. You see a lot of attributes are there, right? And random. Even if you take the things which have underscores on either side, still a lot of things are there. So among all, the first thing is about, so random dot random. Random dot random every time will give some random number. Between 0 and 1, you will get one random number. Again you ask, again you ask, again you ask some number. Sir, what if I want a number between 0 and 100? Then multiply with 100. So you get any value between 0 and 100 only. Sir, what if I want a value between 0 and 10? You give into multiply. Means based upon how much you want, you need to do that kind of offsetting. But every time it will give a floating point value between 0 and 1. So that is how random dot random works. So, and similarly, what is this concept of seed and why it is important? Did you see after writing one seed? So I am giving some outputs, right? Now let's do the same thing here. Seed is like an input to a random number. Any pseudo random number will work on some kind of input, either if you give or if you don't give. Say if you don't give input, by default it will take the current time or so time zone or whatever information. So depending upon algorithm to algorithm. But every random number algorithm will follow certain things. Say initially I'm doing random dot random, right? Okay. If I print it 3 times, did you see these were like different things? Now for the same thing, if I pay is random dot random of the same seed. So 1 8, so 4 8 5. I'm passing. Sorry, it should take seed, right? Sorry, that is my bad. Okay, random dot seed I passed. After passing the seed, I am asking, hey, give me random dot random. Did you see after giving this seed, the next 3 occurrences, so and next 3 occurrences here were exactly same. So did you see that? So 0.67 so and so, 0.67 so and so, exactly. 0.91 so and so, 0.91 so and so, 0.123 so and so, 0.123 so and so. This is how you can predict, I'm saying. Similarly, if I give some random seed of this string, random string, so after that if I ask, so it is saying, say this time you are asking to print 3 occurrences and you are storing in a list, right? Like a comprehension. Did you see? All the 3 occurrences were exactly same. Means after giving one random seed, the seed can be any immutable object. Mostly we give immutable objects. We never give immutable objects. You give like any immutable objects. So if I'm not wrong, only immutables objects. We can't pass like mutables. That is what my remembrance. So there is nothing wrong in testing. So something you can give a try. If it takes, that's it. So it is saying it will not take, right? Yeah, that's what. It only supports are like none, int, float, boolean strings are int array. You cannot pass any other data type. So to the seed. Seed can be anything. So like this. So hope you understood. So seed can only be any of these things. So nothing else can be there. So then in this case, like we can have a prediction, right? Almost we can predict everything. If you want to make something to be unpredictable, so you can use something. There is an OS module, right? In OS module, there is something called as urand. It's a very big bytes, 1024 bytes will come. If I pass this, it's almost like unpredictable, the same. If I go for that much big. But even after doing this much also, they say that, random module is not designed for security purpose. Only for like your purpose for creating any custom things or any of the ordinary operations it is used. If you want to work on secure operations, there is another module. So we should use that. But this is how you can understand how to create a random value. And similarly, so next thing, there is something called as the randint. So random.random will create random values, which were like floating point values. Whereas if you want to create a integer, so then we should specify the limits. If you specify the limits, it will give the value between it. But if you say like, if you don't specify the values, it don't know like where to get it. That's the difference. Random.random will not take any input, but it will give a floating point value between 0 and 1. Whereas randint will give like this. Similarly, uniform randint means this is also same like the randint only, but the difference is that it will generate a floating point value between the given limits. So you see, so random.rand will every time give values between 0 and 1 only. If you want a better values, you need to just give the limits. But it cannot give like a custom limits. By say I want between 1 and 100 floating point values. I cannot get, right. Whereas uniform can do that extra thing. So that too, the generated values are like uniform distribution, we say. If you take a graph of all the values you got, it will be like a uniform distribution. So that's what it says. Similarly, You know what is a range. So what is a range? If I use a range, what will happen? I'll get values from, so given limit, right? If I say 1 to 10 with a step of 1, means like if I convert to a list, you can understand how many values are created. From 1, it will go to the last value, but doesn't include the last value. But every time it will give the values in steps. This is what you know. Then what is rand range? Rand range means, so random dot rand range means it will first create this range of values and give one value among them. You see, what are the values which are generated are between these values only. So you will get any value only between this. Say if I say similarly, if I go for a range of say every second element, did you see I 1 3 so and so? Now if I say a rand range of every second element like this, now you see every time which I get a value which are between those only, I will not get any other limit. Rand range means first it will create a range. Within that range only randomly one value will come. So that is how it works. Similarly, if you have some numbers, say I have a list. So numbers is a list I have. In this list, if I want to shuffle the order, at this moment I have everything in a sorted order. Now if I want to shuffle, and now if I print, hey, what is the numbers? Did you see what happened? And if I do the shuffling again, if I do shuffle again, and if I ask, hey, what are the numbers? Did you see the order was changed? So if I do the shuffle again, and if I ask, hey, what are the numbers? Generally, if you want to implement like a cards game or something, it is more useful. And similarly, there is something called as random.sample. So if you are having a list or any iterable, okay, any iterable, say like numbers is there, right? So you have some values. In this, I want to pick one value among them. So for that, we can use a random.sample. If I use random.sample, so if I give any of these things, let's say numbers I give, numbers is a list I give, and I want to pick one. So, or like if I want to pick some 3, you see, among the given numbers, it will pick some 3. If I say like 8, what if I try to pick like 8,000 or something? Means like more than the values you're asking, right? That's where it throws an error. Means sample is designed to pick some sample values among them. But then the number of values you are trying to pick should be less than the total size. But that is how it picks. But what you understood, sample will pick every time. So one or more based upon numbers, and it will give a list. So either this sample, you can pass like a list to it, or you can pass like a tuple. So tuple also you can pass. You can pass a set, a dictionary, any iterable object. So not only that, if I can take like a string, so I can take say Python programming. If I pass, did you see I got 3 characters? Similarly, if you, every time if you are sure like you want some number of values, this is how. But if you are sure like you want only one among them, that's where the next thing comes. That is called as a random.choice. So random.choice is suitable. So for the same thing, if I do like instead of sample, if I say like choice, so I should not specify the numbers because choice will every time give only one. Choice will every time give only one character. You give anything, say like, so random dot choice of numbers you have, right? Numbers. If I say, I get 1. If you are really interested in only one number, so you can go for choice. So if you are interested in more than one, that's where we need to go for sample. So one good example, this is one of the interesting interview questions which was asked. If say you were given like you were asked to toss for like 1,000 times, and you want to check how many times it is heads and how many times it is tails. See how the program was written. So I took like heads is equal to 0, heads and tails also 0. So I created like this, So from this dictionary, if I ask only keys, what will happen? I get heads and tails only, right? So I'm converting to list to show. So 1,000 times I'm looping. Each time I will get something, right? One among them, right? So either I will get a head or a tail. This highlighted one will result in a head or a tail. So based upon the occurrence, I am incrementing the value. Now you see after 1000 times what will happen. So if I execute the same code here, you will notice the same, right? You see, after executing for 1000 times, did you see? So don't you see that 50% probability, right? The exact pseudo random number should give like a 50% probability. Means if there are two options, exactly 5000 should be like heads, 5000 should be tails. But there won't be practically that much exact. So it will be slightly like this or that. So that's what you see. Again, if I execute the program, you see now more tails than heads. If I see more tails than heads, so it will be slightly randomized, but the figure will round around that 50% mark. If there are three options, it will do 30% each, like that. Similarly, there were like different logics for creating random numbers and others. This is one of the program that we can do and cheat. So if you want to create a random number, we have created. Similarly, if you want to create a random name generator, what do you mean by random name generator? If let's say I was given some two lists, and from that I want to create a random name. So user in Python 3. So have you seen any of the games where we play in real time? If you go to any online site, they will create some random names, right? So random name generator. When you're playing any game, they will be giving some list of names, and it will give. Say like I was given two lists. The first names are like Drew, Mike, Jeremy, so and so I have. Last names I have. From these things, I need to create a random number. So first thing was, I want to create a function which will take these first names and last names and the number of such names that you want to create. So for this, we need to pass these numbers for what are the first names and second names, and we need to create. So I would say like names is equal to, so someone wrote a syntax like this. So they are passing the first names and like the last names, and like they are saying like they want 5 names, and we need to print that names. Okay, this is what the agenda. So now here you need to write the logic. So this is how you wrote a small logic now. Now here, what can I do? There are two things I can do, right? If I want to generate any random number, how I can do? If I have these two things, I can take these two and do it. Okay, I have two things. So now don't you think that I can do random dot choice of, if I do like first names, so don't you think like I'll get one first name? First names, if I ask, I get one first name among them. Similarly, if I say a random dot choice of last names, I get one last name, right? One last name. Now, don't you think that I can create a string? So based upon this, so means first what I can do, first I need to loop for that much times. For I in, so range of this x, how many times the names you want to generate, those many times I will loop. So each time, so I need to generate a name. So name is equal to, first I'll create an f string, so containing 2 points. So random dot choice, right? So from random, because that choice only I'm using from this random module here, so I'm selectively importing only choice. Don't you see choice? Now I want to say like choice of what are the first names were given, first were given. And similarly, I want to tell like one more thing here, one more f string. So and like choice of, so second, whatever was given second. If I do both, I get the name, right? Now in the top, I can take like names which were created. So random names is equal to so and so. And what I need to do, I need to just add it. Random names dot append of, so name. If I do, I'll get all the names, and I can do a return of these random names. And see here in this case, I'm not using this I, right? So I can replace this with an underscore. Now this is how I created a typical function. You see now, and if I want to execute Python, so whatever is 04 so and so, where are this program is. So I need to execute this. So I can execute like, I can copy this file, copy path. Even in Jupyter Notebook also, so we can execute. If you can give the entire path, you can do that. But like you need to give in quotes Python space so and so. So that is how you write a command line execution, right? What are you do to the command line execution? You can do like this. You see, you generated some random numbers. If I execute the script again, I generated some random 5 names. I generated some random 5 names. So don't you think it's a it? So you generated some 5 names. So first names and last names like that. And similarly, one assignment for you is that based upon this, so now take some input and use ask like some data set of some first names and female names, because last name will be same for male and female, right? So first names you change like a female names, and you try to ask a gender also. This time if the user gives like so male, you generate male names. If the user gives like a extra input of female, you generate female names. So that is an assignment for you. Just go through it. And so after this, if I go ahead, you have like the cards. So this is one more interesting. Just walk through it. So hope you know like how the card games will be, right? How do you create the card games? I wrote a small logic, the card decks. Just walk through it, so you will understand. And similarly, password generation. So to be frank, there is no one specific way of generating a password. So whenever someone writes, it's up to you how you want to write a logic. I wrote a logic on my own, however I want. So there will be mostly you will get interview questions in terms of this password generations only. So and like so the most other important thing is about the secrets module. I told you, right? So this is less used, but I told if you want to create any cryptographic things or like so more confidential things, random module is not suitable because it's a pseudo random number. It is don't generate the true randomness. In that case, we need to go for secrets. I told secrets is exactly like the random syntax only they created. So to avoid any confusion, secrets was recently introduced in the Python 3.6, I guess. It was there. So generates for cryptographically strong pseudo numbers. So means like whenever your security is more paramount, you go with this. Same like choice, map. So whatever you see, right? Those options are there. But it has few others like random below, any number below that, above that. You want to generate bits also. You can generate token bytes. Generally, in which case we use it, right? Means whenever you want to, have you ever seen, right? Any password reset? Sometimes when you're doing a password reset, you will get an email, password reset email. When you click on it, did you notice that in the URL, you will get a big URL, right? So that kind of things. So token, so URL safe token, that is exactly the same. So who will create it? Whenever you're creating a web applications, use it. So you want to generate a random sequence. So if you want to give a strong password, so this is how we create. So like some system randomness and all these things, there are many options are there. So same, apart from your random options, other features are also there in that. So next small thing is about the at exit. This is another interesting module, at exit. I will tell you what is this shortly. Till now you work on any module, right? You will exit and you come out of it. Yeah, let me come. Till now you have worked on many modules. So this, you should call it as at exit. You should call it as, not like at exit. So at exit. So what is this at exit exactly, and how it is helping us? So there is a module called as at exit. If I say like import at exit, so it is like a module which can help you when you're working. So if I say like list of attributes in it, dir of this at exit, you can notice that. How do you go to executing this file? Go to this directory, cls and python. So at exit. Did you see in dir, it will give the list of attributes. So if I ignore the things which have underscores on either side, there are two things: register and register. These are the only things it has. So what is the purpose of this program? Say like I have a function called as addition. I'm ignoring it. I have a function called as addition. And if I am calling this function addition, it will execute, right? If I execute it, it will execute the function and say it. I am not getting the result. So if I want to take the result, I am assigning to some variable and I can print like what is the result. F of result is equal to. Okay, if I execute now, you will understand what is the result. Fine. Now, what is the purpose of this function? Say like I have one more function called as all done. All done. So if I execute this function also, all done, it will call and you will get it, right? So like that, if I have one more function, so what are the functions I have? If I execute, they will call, right? This is how you know. So now, whenever you have one code, when it is working, so after everything is executed, only if you want to execute something, means after the end of the entire program, if you want to do some kind of cleanup or doing, in that case, we can do this at exit. So instead of calling this all done function directly, so let me comment it and do it like this. So before registering, I am registering this function. See, not a function call, just a registering a function, and I am doing my job. Now you see this time what will happen. Initially it is saying registering, then it is saying all done, then like it is doing a registered. So, and after your addition was done, did you see here in this case, is all done called at any time? We didn't call all done, right? So did you see all done was called in the last? So this is how it happens. If you want to register any function to execute when the program is closing down, so that is where this at exit will help us. Is it clear, or shall I repeat again? If you want some program to execute at the end of the logic, that's where we use it. So let me go with one more example for you to better understand. You see now here in this example, what happened? You have a cleanup program, you registered. So one more thing is there, registering. You didn't have your own logic at all. Only one function you have, and you have like at exit.register only. We are registering each time. So this function is taking one argument also that you are passing. So you don't have your own code. I didn't write anything at all. So when I don't have anything, what will happen? So Python space, if I say 02, did you see what happened? It is registering these three calls and how they were executed. So whatever is first is there, right? Which is executed, registered, that is executing last. So don't you think it is following something called as, like a last in first out, like a stack? So which was registered in the last, that is executing first. The stack option is very simple to understand. If you have a box of chapatis, so whichever you place in the first, you eat last, right? So that's how it works. So in this particular program, you don't have anything else except these two, but still you are happening. And assume that there is an exception raised. We can also raise an exception, right? If you raise an exception, in that case also see what happened. Generally, when any code is there, so when exceptions or anything happens, exception is the last statement to execute, right? The code will entirely break until unless you handle that exception. But these kind of at exit scripts will execute even when there is an exception. Even when there is an exception also, it is executing. Did you see? The code was broken with some exception. So, but still these were executing. So whether there is an exception or not, so they can help us. So in which case it is very helpful for us whenever the code is breaking. In production, when the code was broken, you need to detect why things are happening so. But no one will give us a second chance. Just imagine like you are working in a Amazon.com site. So some thing was failed. Can you ask the some of the customers to again do the transaction? I want to check why the problem happened. It's not that easy, right? In those kind of cases, So we need to rely on ourselves. That's where this atexit comes. Whenever things go fatal, it can help us. And also you can register multiple functions, the same function with different arguments, and whatever the registration you did, that will go in a last in first out order, like a stack. And similarly, see here, the function itself is raising an exception. So you are registering two functions. These functions itself is registering a thing, right? This time, this is another complicated thing. Even in this case also, did you see? All exceptions were run. So registered first, registered second. See? So the this function itself is resulting in exception also, next one will execute. Now, at any dire point of time, even if the entire code fails also, your scripts will execute. And if you want to get some basic logs or anything about the context, you can get it. Sometimes when you're working on a production projects, these are very much useful. And the last thing, so about the base64. Base64 is like an encoding scheme. Now, I am telling like there are two things. Mostly whenever I tell something like encoding, you people get confused. There is a difference between encoding and encryption. So hope you understand the difference. Encryption means hiding something. Encoding means making it better for communication or like storing. Just imagine simple. You have a 10 bags of rice. You bought to your home. You want to better store. Don't you store so more closely such that you can place more of them side by side, right? So that is for better storage. Similarly, you are passing on you have a truck, and on the truck you need to transport these 10 bags of rice. How you do? Will you place as per a way, or like you place in a proper way? So they want to be transported in a less compact space such that more can be done. At same time, there should not be failure, any kind of transport damage. So how you do? That is called as encoding. Now you understood the difference between encoding and encryption. So this is the encoding. So base64 is the most common encoding. Like that, we have like base64, base32, different kinds of encodings are there. The most common across them is like the base64 encoding. So here I wrote very clearly about all the things. What is a base64 encoding means? It will contain 26 upper characters, 26 lower characters, 10 numbers, and like the new line characters. If you combine all of them, it will be like 64. So totally there are 64 things, and they are represented with 6 bits. So what is this actually doing? Hope you remember, like, so every character will have an ASCII code. If you ask the ORD of the character, you will get it right. Similarly, if I use the base64 of each of these character, did you see that everything is doing like the corresponding number it is getting? Means for every character, it is giving some kind of related thing. So, but every base64 character is ending with a 2 underscores, 2 equals, right? This is the common thing. So one P is represented by UI, Y is represented by WQ. So Y, sir, it is. So that is how machine understands for better encoding. This is one of the encoding standard. It is nothing to do with security, as I'm telling again. For storage and transport, it is useful. That's it. Like that, for every character, you can check. So it will do like this. So if I say, if I have an ordinary data, I cannot pass the data directly. Did you see before the data I'm preceding with a B? Till now you have a F before it, but for the first time you have a B. B means like byte strings. Hope you remember I told the byte strings. This is where we use byte strings, or whenever you're working with command line things. So we use byte strings. So these are like most use cases of it. Now going further, you can see that if I encode something, I got the encoded value. And if this encoded value, if I'm passing like for the B64 decode, did you see I got the original message again? But everything works in the byte strings. So similarly, if I have an ordinary string, either I can prepend with a B, but what if the data is coming in runtime or some other way? I can do a dot encode. If I do an encode and pass to this thing, so first it is converting to ASCII code and then doing, and again you are getting. So as you are decoding to ASCII back again, so you got like an ordinary string instead of a bytecode. So if you try, so you are working, you will understand a lot of things. Say like I have taken an image file, I took an image file and I'm working on it. So there is ipython.display of image is there. If you use it, any image when you have loaded, you can display also. This is an ipython image, so Python image which I took. So for that I am doing an encoding. So an image I cannot transfer as it is. I need to do better encoding and transfer. This entire image I am encoding like this, and this data I will send over the network. When the at the receiving side, they will take this entire message and decode to get the image back. Now, did you all understand what are the real use cases? These are the most real use cases that you can see. Hope you understood. So real use cases. And also, like I told you, right, whenever you are sending an URL, password resets and others, I told you, right, URL and so URL safe encoding means the same. Means certain characters can't be placed in URL. So only the characters which can be placed in URL, they will take and do it. So like that, these are the different options. So with this, I want to stop.